Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Wednesday, February 23rd, 2005. The city meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., or as close to it as we can achieve a quorum. Meetings are open to the public, and we do invite you to join us. For members of the public unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Cardenas, Garcetti, Grohl, Han, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, Weisstein, Padilla, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The council is officially in session. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Parks moves, Mr. Labange seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Ms. Hahn moves, and Mr. Zine seconds. And colleagues, before proceeding to the items on today's agenda, let me recognize Councilmember Parks for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a family here, and as we know, over time, that we have to unfortunately put out reward notices because family members have been tragically killed in the city of Los Angeles. And that today I'm going to ask the family, first of all, Mr. and Mrs. Whitfield to come up to the podium and share my time. And also they have with them family members, Carrie Ely, Leola Bass, Jesse Smith, Diane Nelson, and Joe Nelson to also come and join them at the podium. And this is, colleagues, today that item 59 on our reward motion. And what we're trying to do is highlight this circumstance that basically their young son sitting on the corner of 3rd Avenue and West 65th Street was gunned down by unknown suspects. And after exhaustive investigation since October of 2004, LAPD detectives from robbery homicide who are here today, Detective Matthew and Detective McCartan, have asked us to go forward with a reward motion in hopes in bringing attention to this incident that we be able to get the leads and the witness information that is necessary to bring this case to a conclusion. So I'd like to ask Mr. and Mrs. Whitfield if you'd like to make some comments and bring that mic down so we could hear you there.
Yes, we're the parents of Glenn Ennis, who was brutally murdered on October 4th, 2004. And we're here with a face to this case to show the many people that has been affected by this senseless crime. He's left a young daughter, brothers, sister, uncles, aunts, girlfriend, friends, and we just sincerely want anyone to come forward in the community to help us solve this senseless crime. It's just unfair for this perpetrator to be able to live his life daily like nothing has happened. It's just not fair. And to go on unpunished. I'm just begging for someone in the community to come forward and let us know who this was, because it's just, I'm never going to be able to see my son, to hug him, kiss him, or do anything anymore. So I just think justice should prevail in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Whitfield and the family. And colleagues, when item 59 comes up, we'd ask for a unanimous vote on the $50,000 reward and to hopefully bring this case to a conclusion. But thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. I'd now like to recognize President Padilla for a special presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, before the presentation, since the family is here, why don't we take item 59 out of order and vote on it right now. Madam Clerk.
Okay, we have item 59 before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Thank you. Forthwith to the mayor.
Good job. Colleagues, I stood before you yesterday with some mixed emotions, recognizing a couple of staff members who were in the process of leaving the office, and today I have yet another one of these presentations. The great young man standing next to me is a familiar face around here, but hasn't been seen a whole lot this last month and a half. Mark Dierking has been with the 7th Council District Office longer than I've been with the 7th Council District Office. His career has not only stemmed from a lot of years here as a council aide in City Hall, but previously has done stints at the MTA, providing public affairs services for the Metropolitan Transportation Agency and the San Fernando Valley specifically. The Trust for Public Land, he's staffed former members of the AQMD and a number of other organizations. But as much as it hurts to see him leave my office, and I want to talk a little bit about the accomplishments and contributions he made to my office and my council district, it is exciting news to share with all of you that Mark Dierking has become the new executive director of the Children's Museum of Los Angeles. You know that the Children's Museum is a cause and an institution that's near and dear to my heart. From my first days here on the council, Mark was the first one who believed in me and this idea of bringing the Children's Museum to the San Fernando Valley. A Children's Museum as an institution that needed some new blood, needed some new energy, and needed sort of its next life and a new facility. And so we started with an idea. We started with what was to many people an impossible cause to bring about not only a new children's museum, but to bring it out to the San Fernando Valley where we have a significant need of cultural institutions of this type. Mark Dierking has worked on children's museum issues for me for the last several years, but his contributions don't end there. When I look at what I'm most proud of for my council district, the libraries that we've rebuilt, the new library at Hanson Dam that we've built, the greenest building, the greenest city building in the city of Los Angeles, the expansion of parks and park programs, and even having the city of Los Angeles in the running for a Major League Baseball Youth Academy. This and many other projects were on the work plate of Mark Dierking, and he's done just such a tremendous job for my office and for the entire city that it does sadden me to see him move on to the next great opportunity in his career. But I couldn't think of a better place for Mark to move on to as the executive director, somebody who not only myself but the entire Children's Museum board has entrusted with this project and has entrusted to make sure the doors will open for the Children's Museum in about 2 years from now. And so I wanted to colleagues appropriately bring him forward for this resolution and a thank you on not only my behalf, but the entire city council, the mayor, and the entire city family. Mark, for all your years of hard work and wishing you the best. And as we've talked about on Friday, you're not going away. You're just part of the extended family still, and you'll always have a place in my office and with the city. Thank you, Mark.
We have a couple council members who would like to say something. Ms. Gruhl?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, too, want to add my congratulations and pleasure that you're going to not be going very far from here in City Hall, and that the Children's Museum has a special place in our hearts, obviously, for Alex, but the rest of us and the East Valley, and I think the city as a whole. So I know with your leadership, and Alex is right that so many things that happened in this district on planning issues. I always tell my staff member, Dale Thrush, who's the planning deputy, that he has the worst job in the council office and the most challenging. And I know you appreciated the challenges as well during the however many years. I'm not sure if how many years have you been there? 7?
I've been 7.
7 years. So there from the beginning. And I know we've just enjoyed working with you and in Alex's staff to accomplish some of those goals in the last 3 years since we've been elected. So you'll be missed in City Hall. Your friendly face, your willingness to assist us. But I wanted to stand up and say thank you for your service to the city. And you're just a little bit away. We'll be calling on you to, and hopefully you will call upon us to make the Children's Museum really a reality here in the city of Los Angeles. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti? Okay, we'll pass him up and go to Mr. Smith.
Well, I want to join with everybody in wishing Mark the best of success. And I can't think of a better fit for this new job than Mark. He and his lovely wife and their lovely kids are a very tight-knit, close family. You know he loves kids. I've had the pleasure of working with him on some YMCA projects in my district and Alex's and Wendy's and others. And he's just a perfect fit for, but I know also around this council chamber, I had the pleasure of working with you when I was chief of staff for Mr. Burnson on a lot of projects. You had a lot of expertise and knowledge and a lot of energy for the things you were working on and great belief in this city. And you're going to do us great things. And I'm just glad you're out in the San Fernando Valley staying with us, because I know you're going to do great things over there, and it's going to be great success. And I look forward to working with you in that new capacity and give your wife my best wishes as well. But thank you so much for all you did here. And also thanks for walking precincts for me when I ran, too. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you. Mr. Garcetti, we're going to give you one more chance. I think he's in the back on the phone, so he'll have to give you his remarks privately. Okay, Mark, would you like to say something? Oh, we got a lot more up here. Mr. LaBonge. Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I just wanted to let you know, Mark, that the job that you're going to be embarking on is very, very important. The Children's Museum of Los Angeles was fading away, it was leaving, and Alex Padilla called me when I was in the state legislature, and he had a crazy idea. He said, why don't we do this in the San Fernando Valley? And of course I said yes. I thought he was crazy. I thought it was almost impossible. He said, now all we need to do is raise about $30+ million. And then I thought, well, not only is he crazy, he's delusional. But the fact of the matter is, I think you've raised, what, over $20 million, is it, Alex? Over $20 million. And I was very proud to say that when I was in the state legislature, there was a time when the state legislature had a little bit of money, and we were able to get a few $1 million for the Children's Museum. And also, now that I'm a councilman, Mark, you actually started your job before you even started your job, and you talked about how you really needed some better space in the San Fernando Valley, and I think through you and our staff, we were able to work something out. So congratulations, you are already successful, and I'm sure you're going to take it to the next level, and we look forward to having a first-class, world-class museum under your leadership. Thank you and congratulations.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And excuse me, I'm sorry, we're dealing with some of the homes that have been red tagged throughout the city right now, so my apologies. But Mark, it's been wonderful to have you here in City Hall, and I know that you're going to do extraordinary things where you are, but I wanted to speak just personally, not just about your citywide and your CD7 work, but your work in my district, and how much of a leader you've been there working with some of the church groups and the Hollywood Interfaith Sponsoring Committee to really push the issue of housing. And a lot of groups come in, even faith-based groups say, government's got to do the right thing. But sometimes even they don't look as creatively as how they can themselves push their own organizations and their own groups to look at where they might contribute. And not only were you part of the moral voice pushing in Hollywood for more affordable housing, but you also looked at your own church and the ways that you're working right now at looking at being able to build some housing right there on church property. You and Caprice have been true lights in this city. This is an extraordinary gain for the city. I know it's a loss for Mr. Padilla, but it's an extraordinary gain for the city. And I also want to thank you for the leadership you've provided on environmental issues as well. I know Glenn Dake from my office and myself, we've really enjoyed being able to work with you, and your instincts on planning and transportation, on environmental issues, on housing issues. It really spans an incredible spectrum, and now to take on the youth issues and the arts and culture issues that you'll be doing here almost completes that resume. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with you, to enjoying your friendship, and you keep our feet to the fire, not just in terms of the fundraising and everything you'll need to do with the Children's Museum, but right there in the heart of Hollywood to make sure that we have the sort of community that you're going to be proud to continue to call home to. So congratulations.
Mr. LaBonge.
Very much, Madam President, and Mr. Padilla. Mark, you know what's nice is when you transition and you go to something you love, and you love children. You have a beautiful family, beautiful girls. You have a beautiful wife who was committed and still committed to children and education. So all of a sudden you're in the stream. You're in the stream that you could really pound away at trying to build what is necessary that will enhance lives of thousands of other children, not just in the San Fernando Valley and not just in Los Angeles, but throughout Southern California. That location in Hanson Dam, that connection to that environment, that connection to Angeles National Forest, that access off the freeway, all that put together. It's absolutely wonderful. So I want to congratulate you because it's something when you work for, and I know Mr. Padilla had some special staffers here yesterday, your frontline person who was your receptionist and your press person who had to pick up for everything that one has to do in the press area here. Here, your job now, as you leave Alex, is to do something special for all the city. So I want to congratulate you and thank you as someone who's always been committed. You've always been committed. Now the bat's in your hands, but you got 15 friends around here that's going to help you, and a champion right there next to you to try to help you get that project done. Congratulations, Mark, and thanks for your service to the city. My best to Caprice and the girls.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark, you've been around here for a long time, and it seems that this week a lot of Alex's staff or deputies are leaving, and that's because they're going on to better things, more exciting things, more activities, but you've had a great training ground. And when I travel through that community, the Northeast San Fernando Valley, near Hanson Dam, which will probably be filled with water now, with all the rain that we have and all the improvements that have been made, it's a real tribute to all the work that's been done in that northeast section of San Fernando Valley. I know you've been a part of that in the Children's Museum, which will really put Los Angeles on the map. I know we were in, where were we? The World's Children's Museum. Indianapolis, where I've heard, and I wasn't able to visit, but I heard from a lot of folks that they have a wonderful museum. I'm sure ours will be much better. It'll be newer, more exciting, and it's a wonderful place for our children to congregate and meet and learn all about the wonderful things that we have to offer. But congratulations to you. I think you're the third, is this the third departure from your office, Council President Expedia? And they're all going on to wonderful activities, new, exciting activities. So the best to you in the future. And I know that the door is always open for you to come back here and visit because we've known you for a long time. You've been here a long time and you have a lot of roots established. And I'm sure those roots, that network will continue in your new process and raise the rest of those dollars to have that dream of Council President Padilla come true up in the Northeast Valley. So congratulations to you, Mark.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say, Mr. Drinking, if you're going to be as intense and as clear and as specific with the issues as you were during Plum, they have one heck of a guy. I just want to thank you for your hard work. I believe the district's going to miss you, your tenacity, your ability to advocate for Councilman Padilla is admirable. I really enjoyed how you would come up to the table and say, this is what we really want. I know what the bureaucracy has told you, but this is what we really want, and you got it done. So thank you for your hard work. Thank you for that advocacy. And again, the district's going to miss you. I know Alex is going to miss you. But I want to miss you too because you made our Plum meetings that much quicker. So appreciate that so much. Take it easy.
Okay, Mark, now we'd like to hear from you.
Well, I want to thank you all for your kind comments. I've been at the city now for 7 years, and it really feels like, more than any other position I've held, that this is a family of folks that are working to serve the citizens and the residents of Los Angeles. And I see the hard work that all of you and all of the various departments put in on a day-to-day basis, and it's impressive. I think that that's only comes through dedication. I want to thank my council district staff, my fellow workers in CD7. I think they're top-notch. I think that their skill and their expertise and their passion for the district is unparalleled, and I think Alex made good choices, and I think he's in good hands. And I wanted to close by just thanking Alex. I think I've been with him before day one, and it's just been a pleasure working with him. He's a great person to work for. I want to thank him for the opportunities that he's given, and especially this new exciting opportunity that we're going forward with the Children's Museum. And I think the highest compliment I can pay to Alex is that I know in my heart that the Northeast Valley is a better place because he was elected, and that's a lot. Thank you.
And to all the housing developers out there, there's still no gates.
Still no gates.
Congratulations,
They know what I
Mark,
mean.
and good luck. Madam Clerk, what's the next order of business?
Madam President, this is time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
It's time for public comment. I see no cards. Is there any members of the public wishing to address us? You should have filled out a card. Seeing none, public comment is now closed.
And before beginning the regular agenda, there are 2 requests for items to be continued. Item number 21, a request from Councilmember Parks to continue that matter to March 18th.
Okay. Sorry, that's to be continued?
And the next item to be continued, item number 65, a request from the city attorney to continue that matter to March 2nd.
All right. That will be continued as well. There's no objection.
Next items are items noticed for public hearing. Item number 1, the applicant consents to a continuance to March 2nd.
Okay. There's no objection. That will be ordered. Okay.
Item number 2 is also a public hearing item, and I believe there are cards on this item
We
also.
do have cards for item number 2. At this point, we'll take up item number 2. I'd like to call forward 4 public speakers. Dale Pelch from Han and Han, Ronald Corradini, Jerry Newman, and Victor Franco Jr. If you'd like to come up to the podium, please, and we'll take your public comment at this time.
Good morning, council members. My name is Dale Pelch. I'm legal counsel for Corradini Corp. And Ronald and Carolyn Corradini. I want to limit my comments to what we see as a flawed process that has been evoked and has continued for some time in connection with the proposal for the acquisition of portions of property that is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Corradini and is operated by Corradini Corp. Let me premise my comments with the assurance that our client sees value in the project. It's the process by which and through which our client has been treated. This process has been in the planning stages for an extensive amount of time, dating back probably 15 years. The first order of flaw, if you will, originated when various options for putting in this grade crossing were presented to the public. Amazingly, neither Mr. Corradini nor Corradini Corp. were ever notified of these public meetings until essentially the design and the location of the grade crossing came to its current location, or very close to that. When it became clear that the city was going to proceed with the process and seeking to acquire the property, the city representatives asked to have access to the property, which was granted. They also asked to have access to volumes of financial information of the company and its business operations and the processes, all of which were provided to the city on numerous occasions. Despite representing and demonstrating to the city staff representatives and the appraisers how this project with the taking that was going to occur would render this company completely incapable of operating its business in its current operations. Despite demonstrating that, the city's appraisers either ignored or failed to appreciate and recognize those impacts. The result is that the city has obtained appraisals that do not represent the fair value of the property being taken, nor of the damage to the goodwill of this business. It is going to be simply devastating. Now, the city representatives may come up and say there's just a small corner of the property that's being taken here, and we're raising the elevation and we're adding in a ramp to provide continued access. They've ignored the fact that the portions of the property they're taking and rendering this property effectively in a hole when this project is completed completely eliminates and removes our client's ability to continue to operate there. It's our belief, it's my belief as legal counsel for the company and the property owners, that the city has failed to satisfy its obligation of making a good faith offer based upon a fair appraisal of the value of this property. That's a key element to the city proceeding with a condemnation. If the city, in my view, if the city adopts a resolution to proceed forward without having satisfied its obligation to provide a good faith offer, the entire process is flawed. That exposes the city to an extensive amount of damages to our client. I see that I'm over. I'm sorry I didn't recognize that before. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you very much. All right. If you'll just stand by the ready in case anybody does. Ronald Corradini.
Good morning, council members. I'm Ron Corradini, the owner of the property, and I operate the business located on the property. Our company is 81 years old. We've been in the current location since 1938. I'm the third generation of our family to operate this business. We provide a terrazzo floor material. We install it in projects such as Los Angeles Airport, the Staples Arena, the Museum of Science and Industry here in LA, and the Hollywood Walk of Fame, to just name a few of the projects we've worked on. Also, we've gone to China to do a museum in Shanghai as a result of the Chinese coming and looking at the museum here in Los Angeles. We hire somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 to 140 people at any given time, depending on the projects we're working on, and we hire from the local community. We hire starting people at over $11 an hour and work them up within a 3-year period to $35 plus fringe benefits. We provide a good living to people in the local community, and we don't want to see us have to move and lose that base for our employees. We're affiliated with the carpenters. That's who we train our people through. And this has been going on for 3.5 years, where I was first notified by the city about the taking of parts of our property. I am not objecting to the valley grade separation as something that is beneficial to the city of Los Angeles and the community where my property is. I'm objecting to the way I've been treated, or the lack thereof, by the city of LA. On January 14th, the Public Works Committee directed the City Attorney's Office and the City Engineering's Office to negotiate in good faith with us and to meet with us. They did so, and we requested very simple things. We need current plans, and we need a current schedule of how this process is going to take place for the construction. We were told, yes, that they would provide them to us, and we have yet to receive anything like that. It's impossible for me to be able to evaluate how I can stay on the property, if I can, without having any type of information from the city. I'm forced to make a business decision. Looking at the plans, the way they're presented right now, which are very old, the plans I have are dated 9 months ago. Looking at those plans, I have to assume that it's going to shut our business down because it takes a key piece of the property away from us that we need. That means that I am forced to move. I may move to another area of Los Angeles. I may move out of Los Angeles, depending on economics, where I can get the best deal to buy a piece of property and relocate our business. I will tell you this, that I feel I'm being wronged, and I will fight this to the end. I believe I will prevail. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Newman?
Members of council, my name is Jerry Newman. I'm representing Mr. Corradini in this matter. We have been fighting this for quite some time. It has been 3.5 years that we've been in this process. It's important to understand that what we're talking about here is not just any business. It is a business that has been located for 3 generations in El Sereno. It is a business that employs nearly between 120 and 140 people, mostly from the area. They have a hiring practice of hiring from the area. They are members of a union, all of them. They are a union contracting facility with the carpenters as a training facility for this type of work. It is a business that goes all over the world representing the city of Los Angeles, can pay its laborers over $20 an hour, and yet compete with Chinese laborers that are paying $1 an hour and win contracts in Shanghai. These are the types of businesses that we want here in Los Angeles. The city has, in many ways, came to the table and helped with us. they have made changes in design, and they have produced opportunities to meet. The problem has become that they have failed to recognize the idea that once you've gone down a road and you engage in a discussion about what it would take to make this facility right, given what the city was doing, they have made the decision not to implement that plan. First of all, they wouldn't talk to us for a year. Then when they did, with the help of Councilmember Villaraigosa's appointee to Public Works, they sat down at a table and they came up with a consolidated plan, a plan that said if you were going to use this property and have to reconfigure it based upon what the city's doing, this is what it would take to make it work. Once that plan was established, they made the decision, but we can't pay for that. And we can't even tell you how much it's going to cost to do that. At the end of the day, they've recognized that that is a thing of mitigation for the project, and if it takes that to mitigate the project, it should take that to make this man whole for the loss of his business. But what we're told is we're only going to address the property. We're only going to address the real estate aspects of it. We're not going to address this piece of mitigation. Please give us a proposal back. Please give us an assessment back as what you think it is. Well, we did the plan. We did the budget for the plan. We did all of those things and yet have not heard back. If you want, we're willing to do a full appraisal, but we need some additional information. Public Works will tell you, we've given more information than we've ever given anybody. We've given you more ideas than we've ever had to, and yet we don't feel we're in a position to make that assessment. What I'm asking the council today is give us time. Give us the information we're asking for, and give us a short period of time to make it work. Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Labange put us all in a room together, and in that 1 hour that we were in a room, we've made more progress than we made in 3 years. And then after we left that room, that progress stopped. And the reality is if we had the time and we had the information, we would make this work out, and you would save a business with 140 jobs instead of losing it. And that's what we're asking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. The next speaker is Mr. Victor Franco, Jr.
Good morning, members of the council. My name is Victor Franco, Jr. I'm the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for Central City Association here in Los Angeles. And although CCA represents about 450 businesses, I'm speaking here on behalf of just one, and that's Corradini. Job creation is important in Los Angeles, but I think more important is job retention. The city is looking to resolve a transportation issue in El Sereno that has obviously been an issue for many years, and we're all talking about the valley grade separation project. And although the city's intentions are good, we have to ask at what cost. Corradini has been in El Sereno for over 81 years, making terrazzo and marble. They account for over 140 jobs here in the city, and these are union jobs, obviously mentioned earlier, the Carpenters Union. Through local hiring, Corradini takes employees across the country, and in fact across the world. It was Los Angeles employees doing jobs in China. And you can imagine LA employees installing LA tile in China. So what are we asking? At this juncture, the city should look at ways on how to build this grade separation, but with keeping 140 jobs, 140 union jobs here in Los Angeles. I know that the city and Corradini were relatively close during some of their negotiations. Let's keep the jobs here in Los Angeles. We respectfully request your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Franco. That closes public comment for this item. Members wishing to be heard on this item. Mr. Villaraigosa.
Of the city family who know this project extremely well. If you could please identify yourself and then go through with us how long we've been negotiating on this project, exactly what we've done, the interventions by my office, and all of the various members of the city family that have been involved in these negotiations over at least a year and a half. In fact, even before that, because if you remember, I first got involved on this project before I actually became a council member. I was called and we tried to put a group of people together. So why don't you start?
Okay. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Masih Hashemi. I'm the project manager for the Valley Boulevard Grade
Could you
Separation
bring that
Project
mic a little closer to you?
at the Bureau of Engineering. Thank you. I understand that we all know about the project as a whole and its benefit to the community and to the traffic operation in the general area. What I'd like to discuss is basically...
Why don't you explain the project, because I'm not sure everyone knows about this project and how critical it is to this community.
Absolutely. This project proposes to replace an existing at-grade crossing, railroad at-grade crossing in El Sereno area near the city boundary with a bridge, a grade separation approximately 1,200 feet to the west of the existing crossing. Now what it does is that we're going to close the existing crossing, and basically that will not be an operational. And with the fact that about a month ago we had the railroad traffic accident, we think that by itself is a good thing to do to close an at-grade crossing and replacing it with a bridge, that therefore eliminating the conflict between the railroad operation and vehicles. This project basically is a complicated project. It has a number of disciplines in it as far as civil, drainage, bridge structure, sanitary sewer, and the project is funded by several different agencies, MTA, Union Pacific, and City Matching Fund, and also the Public Utilities Commission. We are basically at this junction, we have made settlements with, out of 57 parcels, we have made settlements with about 31 of them. And we have taken 16 property owners to the condemnation ordinance. It was before this council about 6 months ago. And out of those 16 property owners, we have made settlements with additional 7. So roughly, there are 9 property owners that are going to be before the court for for condemnation ordinance. This particular condemnation ordinance happens to be the last parcel that we're trying to condemn. And what it does is basically that the timing of this condemnation ordinance greatly influences the overall timing of the project going to construction.
What will be the cost of what's the cost of the delay up to now?
Right.
And what will be the further cost of delays if we don't proceed?
Right. The current cost of the construction project is $23 million, and with the fact that the construction material cost of construction material is going through the roof every day, we think that again, if every day that there is a delay, there may be thousands of dollars in construction costs that will be added to the overall construction.
No, give me the cost. What is the cost up to now of this delay? Not the cost of the project, the cost of delays.
We haven't quantified it, but we think it is approximately to the tune of perhaps $500,000 to $600,000.
$500,000 or $600,000. Now, there's a city attorney representative here as well?
Yes, sir.
Could you identify yourself?
Scott Weibel, Deputy City Attorney.
Now, there's been some characterization, I guess, on behalf of engineering, that we can only offer a certain amount, that any amount over what the value of the land is has to be capped. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Thank you, Council Member. In condemnation terms, the government code requires that we make an offer to acquire the real property based upon an approved appraisal. And we have actually, in this case, done that twice. In September...
Why did we do it twice?
In September, I believe it was 10th of 2003, after appraising Mr. Cordini's property for the easements that we're asking to take, we made an offer to him of $125,000 based on an approved appraisal. He rejected that appraisal immediately.
Why don't you share with my colleagues how big this piece of property is?
It's hard. It's. It is.
I'm Mike Alvin with the Bureau of Engineering and Real Estate Division. The piece of property that we're talking about, it's actually 4 separate pieces of property. There's a temporary construction easement to build a ramp down to the property because the grade will be changing outside the property because of the bridge. There's also about 810 square feet of different easements, which one is a retaining wall at the front of the property to hold back the new street improvement, 208 and 257 square feet of footing easements, which are at the back of the property to hold the bridge abutment. That's 810 square feet of land that will be taken. The other property that will be taken is 722 square feet of an aerial easement, which won't take any ground away from them. It'll take airspace away from them as the bridge goes over the property. So they're operating right now at 24,805 total square feet. So realistically, we're only taking away 810 square feet of ground from them. The rest is an aerial easement.
And they're saying this 810 square feet of ground costs $2 million. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was the initial counteroffer.
810 square feet of land on the east side. This isn't Brentwood or Beverly Hills. This is El Sereno, the city of Los Angeles, a part of an industrial part of the city. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So you're saying it's your testimony. You're saying that that we can only offer what the appraisal indicates we can offer. Is that correct? Something to that effect?
Yes, the reason for that is the city is not permitted to make a gift of public funds to anyone for any purpose. And we have to make our offers based upon appraisals, valid analyses of the impact of a project on the private property. And we've done that. We've actually exceeded the legal requirements for offers. We've not only made them an offer for the real property damage, which is what the government code requires, but we've also spent approximately a year discussing with Mr. Corradini.
No. Let me correct that. More than a year and a half. More than a year and a half.
I was being conservative.
We've negotiated
It's been
back and
closer to
forth.
2 years, approximately, over 2 years. And I should point out that there are funding agencies involved in this, and they would audit the city invoices, and if we go beyond our obligation, then they wouldn't pay for
And we
the
believe our
invoices.
obligation is $400,000. Is that correct?
Our obligation is comprised of 2 parts, and this was the point I was about to clarify. We have offered them $287,900 for the damage to the real property for the taking of this 1,500 square feet and for any severance damages related to the real property. We have also offered them an amount of $121,000 for loss of business goodwill that will be occasioned by the construction of the project. It's that second $121,000 that is above and beyond the city's obligation in this case. In every eminent domain case that I've been involved in the last 20 years, with the exception of possibly 1 or 2, discussions of goodwill and impact on the business as opposed to the impact on the real property is reserved until such time as the condemnation action has been filed and it's in court. And the reason for that is normally that all of the data that's needed to evaluate the impact on a business is in the hands of the property owner, unlike a real property appraisal where you can just go out and look at it and you can make your appraisal. So in this case, we've offered them a total of $408,900 for their damages, which is a combined offer for their real property and their business goodwill.
And when you say the real property, I just want to be clear, you initially said 800 and some square feet. The other 700 is
correct
airspace, not land.
Correct.
Is that correct? Yeah. Members, what I'm going to suggest, because far be it from me to interfere with good faith negotiations. I'm going to suggest that we put this over, continue this matter for another 2 weeks. I don't have a problem with that. This is the 14th Councilmanic District, however, and I'm going to be clear about something. I expect that you engage in that good faith negotiations and understand something. We're not giving anyone $2 million for land that's not worth anything close to that. We're precluded by the city attorney I'm not giving away, I'm not voting for a gift of public funds in that regard. If you want to sit down with our representatives of the city family and negotiate, I'm prepared to be in that room and help you get to an agreement. I have a little history with that, but I'll tell you something, we're not giving a gift of public funds. You know, if there's some room here to negotiate, we should do that. But folks, we've been working on this for a year and a half. It's real clear. The constituents of the 14th Councilmanic District and those of us who live close by know this area very well. This area has been a bottleneck for people for 25 years. We finally got this project moving, and this is the one last piece of property. I understand how important it is for us to keep these jobs and do everything we can. And so in the interest of that good faith and doing what we can to protect, the public purse, but also those jobs, we're going to sit and negotiate this one more time. I'd like to ask a continuance for, I guess, maybe 3 weeks. Let's give it 3 weeks.
Any objection callings? And we do have two other speakers on the queue. Mr. Labange, followed by Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the continuance. Mr. Villaraigosa and his staff have been working very hard. When you ask them to describe 800 square feet is maybe between Antonio and myself and Mr. Padilla. Is that correct, square? So that's what we're talking about. And I know it's a great business. Mr. Carney, I've visited there. You're a great graduate of Loyola High School. Your family has great history there. And it's a very special place where you walk into his business. He absolutely cares about his business and the people who work there. But unfortunately, that little space that's right here is going to mean an awful lot to the people who've been impacted for longer than your family's been there. For over 100 years with those rail lines coming down Valley Boulevard, back when the Los Pobladores came down. And this is a safety issue, right?
Absolutely.
And this
yes.
closes the Eastern Avenue crossing there that is at grade.
Correct, and replace a
makes
little
it
bit of
safer.
bridge. Right.
But the special part of this, 800 square feet, and Mr. Newman, I know you're familiar with the project, that's to make that special sidewalks that you see around the world, including on Hollywood Boulevard, right? Was there any location that could replace that on the property?
Thank you, Mr. Labange. The reality is that area is the only area that's been approved by the state to allow for the drying and containment for the process that you're talking about drying. And so when while they're on that area they're covering, that's the 700 feet that they're covering so that you can't dry the product anymore.
But the 700 feet is like if you're on that other side of Valley
I
Boulevard
agree.
right here, I got to go over you.
It's
So
the
where can
only
you find
700
it?
feet on the property that's approved for that process, and that's at issue. That's what the issue is.
And I want to ask a question, Mr. City Attorney, what did we put on the table for what we felt was the value of it?
For the real property alone, $287,900, and for loss of business goodwill, $121,000.
Total of?
$408,900.
And what what would you support, Mr. Newman? So the 400 what?
$408,900.
48900.
Mr. Lamange, we support what's fair. The issue...
We'll come up with a number.
We have met with the city. We have met with the city, and we came up with a plan, and we costed that plan out. Everyone agreed that that was a plan that would make the property work with drying and everything. The problem is that plan as a mitigation effort isn't being offered as part of the compensation.
What we tried to do, and I think Mr. Smith, Mr. President, just to let you know, Mr. Smith and I, Mr. Villaraigosa and his efforts of his office, tried to put everybody in a room. I just wanted to see that, to come up with a number, because I believe if you come up with a number, then you know where you're working from.
The city attorney needs to say something here.
This is a public interest or necessity hearing, and so negotiations should be reserved
I'm not
for another
negotiating, I'm
venue.
just asking what side of the number is, that's all. But you could say, Mr. City Attorney, I'm negotiating, and if I am negotiation, I retract that. So strike it from the file, City Clerk. And I will sit down and support a continuance, but ask that you get together, because the one thing that's so important, when you get a project as immense as this going, you need to have it done. You need to have it done. And if something stops that little project, it could stop it, then all of a sudden the money goes to another needed crossing in our region. I'm speaking as an MTA board member because you have this challenge throughout our area, so that all the work that's done that I'm sure has had the support of everyone needs to get done. So we'll continue it, and I thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
Part of what I was going to suggest, Councilmember Antonio Verdegosa already got to that point where you're going to put this over and actually get the parties together, and hopefully they will negotiate in good faith. One of the things that I would recommend, because it was mentioned earlier, and Tom Labange confirmed with me that that did in fact occur, that a meeting occurred where some elected officials were in the room, and apparently that was the most fruitful meeting of all. And since that meeting, apparently the fruitfulness of this discussion has waned some. At least that's what I was told. So I just wanted to ask of whether it be Tom Labange or Greg Smith or Antonio Verdegosa, if one of you could be in the room when this goes on, hopefully this can be resolved in 3 weeks. Because as you pointed out, Mr. Verdegosa, this has been going on for years, and this needs to stop. It needs to end. One of the things that I think is very critical and important that we understand as not policymakers, but as engineers and as attorneys in this city, is we need to understand that sometimes the book doesn't tell you exactly what's going on. Something that came out in the latter part of this discussion is the fact that you're talking about 810 square feet. 810 square feet over here, any 810 square feet over there might be the same to you or to me. But when you have 810 square feet, where is that the only portion of the site that the state of California will allow this business to do a certain kind of activity that's critical to that business, then all of a sudden you're not talking about an appraised value of 810 square feet. You're talking about an appraised value of what the value of that is based on all of the circumstances that come to bear. Now, that being said, in your opinion, Mr. Attorney, have you reviewed this and have you taken into account that uniqueness of that 810 square feet? Or is that being misrepresented here, that that permit is allowing that particular piece of land, and that was pointed out as well, that airspace that might sound like nothing to all of us, but they're talking about drying a product. And we all know, if you want to talk in layman's terms, if you want to dry something, it's a lot better when the sun's shining on it than when you're in the shadows. Go ahead, my time, please.
As it turns out, Councilmember, I've discussed with our goodwill appraiser this precise point. The area, the drying area that Mr. Newman referred to is in fact not going to be taken from Mr. Cordini. He will continue to have that once the bridge is constructed. More importantly, it turns out after doing an extensive survey of the industry of terrazzo manufacturers and people that put this in buildings.
You mean the 1,000 different businesses that we have that do that in the city? That survey? You know what I'm getting at? We're talking about a business that is unique, has been here for 80 years.
I do. It turns out that it is better to dry this product in the shade than it is to dry it in the sun, because when it's in the shade, you are able to control the intensity of the heat and have a more even drying process than you are when it's in the sun. So there are many manufacturers of this product that dry their product in the sun, and we have taken this into account. Mr. Hashimi may want to comment on this as well.
Right. We understand that, as Mr. City Attorney mentioned, that first of all, again, we're not taking the property, we're taking the airspace above it, and that reflects as far as the drying of the product. We understand that, and this has been told us by independent appraisal that that kind of manufacturing process does not need constant sun. In fact, it is better to be, these products need to be dry in the shaded area because there will be less cracking. In addition to that, I'd like to point out that we have offered Mr. Corradini a much, much bigger parcel by roughly 15 times the size of this drying area next door to their property, which is a remnant parcel. It has both shaded area and sunlit area, and we have offered it to Mr. Corradini, but I don't believe he had shown any interest. So if that is the breaking point for the negotiation, we have already offered a much bigger area to Mr. Corradini.
You offered a much bigger area, and the permit from the state is actually applicable to that area that you offered them?
I believe the permit can be obtained. If I'm not sure what the circumstances of the permit is.
Not whether a permit can be obtained. We all know how hard it is to get a permit just in this city alone, much less the environmental requirements of the state of California.
Right. Again, we haven't delved into the situation, into details, but we believe that because the locations are comparable,
My
then
time.
the permit can be obtained.
Well, with all due respect, I mean, you just pointed out an actual inadvertent occurrence in the dialogue here, where you represented that an equivalent, actually you were actually making it sound like an equivalent piece of property was being offered. But that equality would have to include all of the related elements that would go with that piece of property, regardless of size and location, and that is the ability to sustain a certain activity on that property. So you just exposed another perfect example of why I think we need an elected official in the room to be a little bit harder on the situation and make sure that we are not allowing semantics to override the facts. And the fact of the matter is, we have a man here who apparently in his family for over I don't think you're 80 years old, Mr. Cordini, but it seems like this tradition and these skills have been handed down for generations. And with all due respect, if somebody's going to tell me, and I'm going to hopefully give him the opportunity to answer that question, I think he has a right to do so. Here we have a layperson in this process saying that shadows and shades and sun don't make much of a difference, and yet we have somebody who for generations has been in this activity. I'd like to offer Mr. Cordini at least to clarify that, if whether or not the airspace is taken, if it would affect his ability to do his craft properly.
Well, just briefly, and then we do have
Yes.
other council members waiting to speak, so I'll ask you to press your button again, Mr. Cardenas. Go ahead.
Thank you. The airspace is important to us, and it's not just the airspace. There is some square footage that is being taken away with the footing for the columns that are going to be holding this roadway up. I've been doing this for 32 years of my life, the terrazzo business. I'm 55 years old. I've been the president of the National Terrazzo and Mosaic Association. I'm the chairman of the technical committee for the National Terrazzo Association. I know what it takes to manufacture terrazzo, not one of my competitors who's going out of business. We are the Terrazzo Company of Los Angeles. Let that be said. Now, Mr. Villaraigosa.
Just the
Okay.
question that Mr. Cardenas asked.
But when it comes to negotiating, I'd love to sit down.
Okay, we'll get
And
to that point. We'll get to that point, sir. I'm going to have to...
I'm sorry,
cut you off.
I asked you about the airspace and would it affect your ability to do your craft?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you. Ms. Miskowski.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is not the place to negotiate. We have a motion to continue. I would suggest that we must respect our official agents who are in the room. Our city attorney, who knows what the rules are, our city engineer and others, and our real estate market people, having said that they've appraised something not once but twice, sometimes times changes, they do have to look at comparability. We are here to make a judgment on what they bring to us, and we've heard that it might be healthy for some more sit down and negotiate. The sky is not the limit here. The law and the rules are the limit. Mr. Cardenas is right. We were told that this site is the only place permitted. But, Mr. Cardenas, we don't know that that's the only place that could be permitted. I would like our engineers who say that they believe another site could be substituted, could be used. In fact, even this site could be used if the conditions were right or that could be verified. But those, we at least have two options. We have one, the option they can continue to use this property. It would be slightly different from what it is now in terms of sunlit because of the overcrossing. Or two, you found an adjoining piece of property that could be utilized, that is it partially in the sun, or a part of it is always in the sun. So that's a possibility. I would like to sort of disengage us and disengage the electeds from being in the room, because I think the elected people are here to make judgment. We can put the criteria on, which is prove that the things that you're offering have substance and have verifiability. The outside party may have issues with that and challenge that, but you can put real proof out there. But I don't think that just saying that this is the place that's permitted means that it's the only place that could be permitted. I would like our city agents to look and talk about to the state agencies, what are the rules that apply where it could be permitted. Sometimes permits are very easily transferable, particularly since we've got a state economy right now that is business friendly. I am certain that calls saying the city is offering this as another alternative and it can work. we could make those calls and get some state interest in this or involvement in it, not only because we're getting MTA and state money, I'm assuming too, to do the project, that the state will lean over backwards to help make another site equally available or equally permittable. So I think we've got the ingredients there on the table. Let's continue for the 3 weeks. But I think we can ask questions, we can be focused, we can be directed. But I think it's far better if electeds aren't in the room negotiating this for any number of reasons, but making the judgment on what you've negotiated and having sat down with them again, understanding that we've dialogued on it and had this discussion, but not to be involved in the specific negotiation, because it's got to be verifiable from both the city attorney perspective, the real estate perspective, and then all the other parameter questions about advisability of getting the state permits to continue doing the work as it could be, should be done. So I think we've got the motion on the table. I'm just, again, putting some caution out there that we've got to depend on our city official agents to really bring the task and the report back to us.
Mr. Labange.
I'd support what Ms. Miskowski said. I want to clarify a point, Mr. Cardes. Mr. Smith and I were in the meeting, and we sent them out of the room. We did not negotiate it. We sent them out, which they had a very important time, and I think we could encourage people to go out of the room. And I asked the city attorney right here, our city attorney, you would agree that it's better to have it handled by, we prod and we encourage to solve it, but as far as doing the negotiation, because you just corrected me, so I just want to stay corrected. All right, good. But we encourage that. But if someone reaches a loggerhead, it's always okay to bring it again, and you have a supervisor who has a city attorney who's elected. You always have that chain of command. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Other members wishing to be heard? If not, we have a motion to continue for 3 weeks. That'll bring us to March 18th. And if there's no objection, we'll see you gentlemen back then.
Thank you.
Mr. Parks?
Yes, Mr. President, I request we have a reconsideration for number 9 at the request of Mr. Zine.
We haven't gone through the agenda yet. We're about to do that
okay.
now. But since we're on number 9, we have a request from Mr. Zine to refer this matter back to Plum Committee. Chairman of the Plum Committee concurs. Colleagues, if there's no objection, item 9 is so referred. Madam Clerk, next order of business, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 3 is a public hearing item. That's finding of public convenience and necessity in Council District 13, and I believe a motion is required to grant the application.
Mr. Garcetti moves. Any further discussion on item number 3? Seeing none and seeing no requests from members of the public to address the council on these items, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved, and we do have 3 commission nominees on the agenda today. Why don't we take them out of order? And at this time, that's items 4, 25, and 26. Gentlemen, would you please come forward? Colleagues, this is Mr. Shell Litton, Mr. Sergio Rascon, and Mr. George Luke, nominees for the Los Angeles Convention and Exhibition Center Authority. We do have a committee report recommending approval of Mr. Litton. That's item number 4. The other 2 have not been heard in committee, but I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Public hearings are open and closed. And does Mr. Ludlow wish to speak first? As the chair of the committee? No. Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much. I just had a chance. Thank you. The importance of the convention center. I'm also president of Sister Cities of Los Angeles to encourage international trade and travel. Just a brief, your passion, I'd like to hear it, on your role that you're going to assume. So if you'd like to start, just reassume. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman. I think our view is that we are, I'd like to describe us as new, relatively new commissioners and galvanized. We think this is a time to turn it around. We think thanks to you all, the hotel project is moving forward. I'm convinced I was not certain when I first came aboard, but I'm convinced now that the hotel will make a major difference. I've met with the people from LA Inc. They seem to believe it'll make a difference. We have some other plans as the landlord there, and we recognize that's a facility that ought to be contributing to the city coffers, not the other way around. We have a number of other initiatives we'd like to go forward to make that whole South Park area more attractive, more exciting, someplace you could go with your family, go down to dinner,
have a good time, and park and enjoy it and come home in safety and with relative ease and say, hey, we've done a good thing in the city of LA.
I have been privileged to be part of this commission, and I am thrilled to see that the goals that were set out to meet are actually coming through, and not only affecting the surroundings, but as a whole, the community and other people that are looking towards LA for conventions. And I myself bring this up to some of our own conventions that before they would not even listen to. But with all of the projects that are coming around and the impact that it's going to have, I believe that we are going in the direction that we really want to be, to make this city the one that we always take very much pride in being and living within.
I believe that Los Angeles can have a first-class convention business, and it is my objective to try to promote that and achieve that. And I would like to continue to serve on this commission. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Just one little term I want you to think about all the time, the drive market. From Fresno to San Diego, from Santa Barbara through San Bernardino, the drive market. Sometimes we do focus internationally, which is so important, nationally, but also the drive market. What can we put in Los Angeles? Like when we have the home show and the boat show and all those shows. I know we lost the travel show to Long Beach, which is unfortunate. But I think it's important to try to have that, to focus on the drive market, those who live within Southern California who could drive here within an hour and a half or two at the most to experience whatever Los Angeles has. Think about the drive market as you do the good work for the people of Los Angeles. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Padilla. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question specific to Mr. Rascon. Mr. Rascon, what's the best laborers local in the United States?
You put me on the spot. Obviously, it's Labor's Local 300.
All right, good answer, good answer. No, it's colleagues, a pleasure to stand in support of the three gentlemen standing before us. I do have a couple serious questions, and that is revolving the issue of this proposed convention center hotel. Now, that may not be within your specific jurisdiction, but clearly the business plan for the convention center, the role of a convention center hotel is presented to this council to go hand in hand. Can any or all of you three comment on that proposal?
Yes, as I indicated before, we believe, I started out being somewhat skeptical of it, but I have seen the figures, I have talked to the people from LA Inc., we have had a number of presentations about the impact of the hotel. I think that you all, the council, have made the absolutely right decision. I think if you want to galvanize the convention center, the hotel is the way to do it. Without the hotel, we will remain at a disadvantage. We believe there are some other things that we could do to integrate all of the hotels in central Los Angeles, not just the convention center hotel, with the convention center, and use that to expand our reach. And hopefully, as I say, the year ahead is a year that we're going to move forward on that.
In fact, it is a crucial necessity to have that hotel there. Many people ask, never been in LA, in some of the conferences that we attend, and they ask, is there a hotel right next to Staples Center or the convention center? Because some of them are accustomed to just walking, from their meeting rooms and back into the corporate hotel where they put all the functions where you run the business out of that when it comes to a conference. So I believe that this is going to be one of the main impacts when it comes to bringing people around and seeing that not only the hotel, but you have other attractions like restaurants, theaters, or where people look forward after a good day's meeting to go and entertain themselves and then be able to be within the surrounding.
I am on the Hotel Expansion Committee, and through all of the briefing and the study, I believe that the hotel is a key component of our overall growth plan in the area. And I think that the city of Los Angeles deserves to have a brand-new hotel in a first-class operation in the area. And I think that that will help our convention and tourist situation.
So is it accurate to say, what I'm interpreting from your comments is there is a business plan, a strategic plan for the Convention Center Authority, and the construction of a Convention Center hotel is a critical component of that plan?
Certainly, yes.
Okay, wonderful, because that reaffirms what the council has done in recent weeks, which hasn't been to sign off on a final deal, but we have adopted a framework for those negotiations. And I know there is a misperception out there on the part of some that the city is, subsidizing and writing a check to the tune of $100 million or more. What we have adjacent to the convention center is basically a significantly underutilized parcel of land. It's currently used as nothing but one level surface parking for Staples Center and some of the other uses in the area. And hopefully through proper development and a proper relationship with the city, we get something that's more highly functioning than that adds to the economy, adds to both the local and the regional economy and the city's coffers in the long term. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. When I just rise to thank you for your hard work. You all have been great advocates for the city in all your individual capacities. This morning we just had a groundbreaking of a great housing facility, over 200 units, just on the other side of the freeway, off of Wilshire and Bixel. There's about 4 to 5 other housing projects that are coming online, averaging between 300, one as high as about 1,800 units. The reason why I share that with you is because the surrounding area of this future hotel and convention center complex, you have a good number of the communities surviving under conditions where half of the communities are at or below poverty. They're surviving at $18,000, $19,000 a year for a family of 4. So when we talk about relief, I talk about the mitigation of the traffic on the other side of the freeway. Sometimes people think it's a big wall that separates two different worlds. I keep saying you have to get through one world to get to the other. As you travel through this, in and out of this convention center, I'm looking to you to be the stewards, to help mitigate, to help bring forth relief of the traffic that will occur as a result of this new hotel, this whole new complex. For too long, that side of Pico Union, Westlake, for too long, the neighborhood just south of the 10 in Councilmember Perry's district, all the surrounding communities have been surviving for these past decades without any real attention until we have major investments like these to address these kinds of conditions. So I ask you, I'm looking to you to be those stewards when it comes to negotiations. What about Pico Union? What about Westlake? What about the traffic? What about the mitigation? How do we deal with the improvements? I'm really hoping you keep that in front of you as you go through the process. It doesn't lose a perspective or a priority in your radar, because that's where I really need your help, because you're in there in the trenches dealing with these issues as commissioners. So I just want to get your opinion or your approach in dealing with the situations that faces as a city in regards to mitigation. Can you give me a perspective?
Thank you, Councilman. Let me say this. I'm going to take your comments. Over the next year, I'm serving as president of the commission, and Carol Schatz is the vice president. I'm going to take your comments as strong suggestions from the council that we pay attention to these issues. I don't think that there are any specific plans in place other than the general plan when we're looking at potential future expansion after the hotel comes online. But let me say this, I take your comments to heart, and this is an issue that I will make a point of seeing it's on our agenda, and we get some of our experts in to comment on it.
I just want to be clear up on one point. It's not so much expansion beyond the freeway, it's all the conditions that build up to the current scenario. How the cars will be queued up, where we open up streets, where we widen sidewalks, where do we provide parking for the neighborhoods across the freeway because of the overspill parking that's occurring now because of Staples. So Staples have been a great neighbor. It's just how do we bring together those elements today, not waiting for expansion, but the impact today. That's what I was really pointing to.
I understand, and it will be an agenda item for certain.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Reyes, that's a point very well taken because actually it's crucial. You know, when it comes to traffic, it is obvious that most of us get frustrated as we drive to the place of work, and those of us that drive more than others, it does get frustrating. It is obvious that we need to work on that we need to focus on something like this. I'm a believer of one of the things that I've heard the other day of a double decking when it comes to freeways. You can't go anywhere to the sides without spending a fortune, but I believe that there's not just double decking, but there's so many things that could be done, like taking different approaches to certain places where it eliminates traffic coming across, so where you're going to one direction, it takes you to where you're going and you're not deviating from any place. So those are some of the issues that it's obvious that we're going to be paying good attention to.
Thank you so much.
The west side of the freeway is probably one of the most dense area in our city and home to a lot of our Los Angelinos. And obviously, in our expansion plan, we would have to account for them and respect them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Commissioners, no other council members want to speak at this time, so Madam Clerk, could we open the roll on these items? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Items approved. We'll send that forthwith. Thank you all, everyone, for your service.
Much.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Colleagues, that was item 4, 25, and 26. We'll send all three of those items forthwith. And now, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next items, Mr. President, 5 through 24, and items 9 and 21 have already been acted on. Those are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, members, items 5 through 24 now before us. Public hearing have been held in committees on these items. Motion from the floor to be required to reopen the public hearings. If there's no such motion, do we have requests for specials? Mr. Reyes?
Yes, thank you, Council President. I have several. Item number 9, my understanding is Councilmember Zine wanted to send that back to Plum. Okay, I'm sorry. 17 and 18, if I can take those together for quick comment.
Okay.
And number 19 for a technical amendment.
17, 18, and 19 called
Yes.
special by Mr. Reyes.
Thank you.
Any other specials? If there's no further specials, Madam Clerk, can we call item 6 special? And on the balance of the items, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held. Items 27 through 61, 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, members 25 through 61 now before us, and I have a card in item 49. We'll call that special. On the balance of the items, I do not have requests for members of the public to address the council. Public hearings are open and closed. Members wishing to call specials. Mr. Garcetti? Mr. Reyes? No specials on these items? Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those items are approved. Forthwith on 61, please. And items 62 through 67 are closed session items. We'll hold those on the desk. Madam Clerk, does that bring us back to items called special?
Yes, it does, and first item called special was item number 6.
Item number 6, let's come back to that item. Let's take up the next item. Item 17 and 18, Mr. Reyes wished to consider concurrently. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to rise and thank all the parties in both of these items. They were very, very tough cases. Whenever you're trying to build housing in very limited space, when you have homes, you have historic facilities, as you find in both of these items, It was with great effort from the city side and the private side, folks that were able to display a great amount of patience and flexibility. But at the end, the old adage that nothing good comes easy can't hold true. So I just want to thank them for their hard work. I want to thank the folks who in the city who have participated and support us in these endeavors. Unfortunately, in District 1, because land is so limited and the populations are so great, densities are so high, sometimes the easiest projects can become quite challenging. Just want to thank everybody for that.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Other members wishing to be heard on items 17 or 18? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Okay, those items are approved. Next item, please.
Item number 19 was called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes.
Okay, this is be short. On item 19, we have a technical change on the first subsection adopts and findings of the Deputy Advisory Agency. In the last line where it states, finding number 1 to substitute the Department of Building and Safety, instead of the word to, it should be for the Bureau of Engineering. And that would be the extent of the technical change.
Okay, is there a second? Mr. White seconds. Other members of the council wishing to be heard on this item? And I know there's members of the public who have submitted cards on this and other items. Public hearings have been held in committee. Motion from the floor to be required to reopen the public hearings, and we haven't had such a motion. So at this time, we're ready to proceed with the vote. Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the item as amended. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
That would take council back to item number 6.
Okay. If I can have item 49. We
Yeah,
have
there was a card on that.
Item 49, which has not had a public hearing. And the council calls forward Ms. Sylvia Lynn Hawkins on item 49.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Sylvia Lynn Hawkins. And on item 49, I would like to say no. And that is because we are against charter schools' demands. The goal is one man ruling, designation of one person to pay all bills, like European, Spain, British, London style of living. When they are faking in exchange for person to person, all deals done overseas and not here with any money cut. Also, anything that is charter organization, it is only the churches in every job position versus USA in every job position. It's only segregation by Africa black people here and overseas schools versus public schools. I am against the charter schools. And now it's whomever they want in their schools, which is overseas people of Nazi blacks, churches, Masons, Muslims, Pro-Dot, Buddhists, atheists, soprano, mafia, fakers only. Therefore, if these schools be blown up or destroyed, it is only overseas people in these schools. If they be destroyed, we are not destroying USA people. They are coming over. Now we're destroying their people. And this is trying to destroy the USA government, a law only. They cannot come here whether they are a business or a school and walk over our law.
Thank you, Ms.
Things
Hawkins.
that happens in their land, there is no government, no law. I have one more minute, please. No law. There is no government. There is no law in Africa. But it's only a free world of Africa people. I would say no on 40 other businesses, houses, and churches, or schools, owners or workers. New law styles in USA. This is too hard for our kids, our workers, and our public that they are coming out with new laws and regulations for our schools, for our housing, that is too strict. We are not going to accept overseas law to override United States of America law. Thank you very much. Again, I would like to say that charter program schools are deleted from all the USA grants or loans. Thank you very much.
That concludes our public comment on this item. Seeing no council members to speak on this item, open the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That item is approved.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 6, and that was called special by Councilmember Padilla.
Okay, we'll move to item number 6. Councilmember Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, wanted to just call your attention to item number 6. I think it's an easy vote for all of us to cast today. This is the conclusion of the process which allows city employees, our city family made up of more than 40,000 employees, to designate the American Diabetes Association as one of the charities to benefit from our payroll deduction program. I hope you've noticed over the years the work that not just I've done, but the city family has done towards fundraising for the ADA that funds research to find a cure and better treatments for those afflicted with the disease. And this is just yet another way we can help. We've had the city family participate in the annual political roast, which is a charity event. We've had a lot of city employees participating in a number of walks, including our Jingle Walk every December right here in downtown. And for those city employees who wish they can do more or wish they can help in other ways, this payroll deduction program is the latest opportunity to do so. So I'd ask for your support and ask you to spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Padilla. See no more speakers. Open the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That item is approved.
Mr. President, there is a special one presented by Councilmember Garcetti, and that is in the process of being distributed to the council members. The city attorney will speak to the findings.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will recite the facts as presented to me by the maker of the motion for the council's consideration of the adequacy of the findings. Due to the recent rain, several residents' homes were red tagged. There currently is no mechanism to provide emergency relocation assistance for these residents. Immediate action is required to house these residents. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Okay, members wishing to be heard on the findings? Seeing none, let's open the roll on the findings, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Okay, special one is now before us. On the motion itself, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues, for your consideration of Special 1 today. And thanks to everybody's hard work from the CAO and the CLA Housing Department, Mayor's Office, Mr. Parks, Ms. Misakowski, and others, Mr. Padilla, who I've been able to discuss this with. We know that there are a number of homes throughout the city that have been red tagged on account of the rain that we have seen in the past week and a half. A number of individuals, we were out there on this site yesterday in Angeles Avenue where a home slipped by 50 feet from its foundation. 6 other homes were red tagged. There's been a number of homes as well that have been yellow tagged. This motion before us very specifically deals with red tagged homes. And until we have a federal disaster area declared, and sometimes that money takes some time to get out there. I was talking with a number of people out there who are literally, some of them spending the night in their cars, other people who don't know what they're going to do, and where there's not FEMA assistance forthcoming right now. This motion is specifically for relocation assistance. It is not for rebuilding. It is for homes that are specifically red tagged today, but it's enabled to bridge that time, and it's loaned, so we will see this money back. We're working with the CAO's office and our chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. We looked at $500,000, which will be, folks will have to fill out an affidavit showing the need there, so this will be means tested. We'll have it up to the limit right now, which is about $8,000, but will help folks that couldn't be helped by the normal emergency relocation assistance that would normally be just for tenants. This was allow that for homeowners. This is the city acting quickly to make sure that we can keep these folks that have been meeting some of the most extreme damage from the rains and some of the most precarious situations, be able to get that assistance right away. And if this does go through, I'd like to inform folks that the Los Angeles Housing Department has set up a phone number to call to process any of these claims. It would be 213-808-8255. 8876. Again, this is not to rebuild or to repair home damage. It's for folks that are out of their homes who have been red tagged, and we will be in communication with them that they can get some emergency relocation assistance right now. And as that FEMA money comes back, we will be reimbursed. So it's a way of us acting very quickly. I know that there's a number of places in the city this has happened. In Glassell Park, I know Mr. Villaraigosa was out there today. It's right across from my own district. Again, in Silver Lake, Mr. Labange had an accident, I know, on in his area right on there on Glendale Boulevard between Rowena and Riverside. We've seen some in the valley as well and throughout the city. So I hope that we can act on this quickly. Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
Mr. Garcetti, thank you very much. And thank all the other City Hall staff, the Mayor's office, and Mayor Hahn, and everyone who's been involved in this. It's something we should do. No one knows how difficult it is when you come home and your home has been severely damaged. I've visited many of these sites, as some of you have had in your districts. It's a very sad thing, but it's the way we can help, and everything gets repaid, which is so important. I just wanted to stand and thank you, Mr. Garcetti, for your leadership, and ask that we all vote this forthwith and get the word out. And Mr. Edelman is here, I believe, from Building and Safety. Could you just give a quick to the comment on the number of red tag homes?
Thank you, Councilmember.
Yes.
As of 11 o'clock this morning, as a result of this latest round of storm, we had 39 homes red tagged, 77 yellow tagged. This is 39 homes red tagged since February 18th. That is in addition to 45 homes which were red tagged as a result of the January storm. So the total is approximately 84 homes red tagged in the city of Los Angeles.
84 homes. So 84 people who've been displaced, who've been challenged, will have an opportunity to get help. And remember, some people, and fortunately a lot of people live in the Hollywood Hills who've had this challenge. Some of them are couples that have lived for years and years. There's a beautiful couple who've been married over 55, 60 years together. And this type of help will help them, because even though they may live in a home, their income is not such when they were working. So it makes a difference. Again, Mr. Garcetti, thank you and all for this. And Mr. Edelman, thank you and your department staff for the excellent job you're doing in working to try to assist people in this time, which is not over. I know there'll be more rains, and even it could be days there will be unusual slides and movement of soil. So I just want to thank you and for working all the time out there.
And you can, Councilmember, rest assured that we are working around the clock 24/7, including throughout day and night over the weekend, and this morning very early hours to take care of any issue that comes up.
The General Manager of Housing want to just say a few words, or the Deputy Mayor, or anyone who would want to add to it at all?
Good morning, General Manager of the Housing Department, Mercedes Marquez. We have agreed to administer this money. What we'll end up doing is working closely with Andrew's department. On the rental units, the SCEP program will be the ones that verify any issues with tenants, as we do now. So we'll decide from a rental unit whether it's red tagged, yellow tagged, where they are. We'll rely on the Building and Safety Department for the same decision on single-family homes. In addition, within the week, I will come back to the Housing Committee with parameters for this program, which will, I am assuming, include deadlines. We have to decide when we're going to cut it off, and then it can be considered if it should be extended, but so that we have a clear deadline. I'll also come back with issues having to do with promissory notes and all those other things. For instance, if we're declared an emergency area, right, a disaster zone, then we'll talk about requiring people to apply for a FEMA loan so we can get paid back. But the one thing that is important to say at the outset, though, is that this would be an unsecured loan, right? So we just have to know that that's what we're doing, and the Housing Department will come back with guidelines that make every effort to ensure that this is not a gift of public funds, that it is truly dealing with a public safety issue.
But if let's say, the property would be attached if they failed to pay the loan back. So we do have a right to
Yes.
Similar to a public improvement,
That's right.
street lighting job, etc.
So we'll do that through a promissory note.
Yeah.
Renata Simmel, Deputy Mayor for Economic Development and Housing, and I just wanted to state that Mayor Jim Hahn is in full support. We worked last night with Councilman Garcetti's office to outline the parameters of this program. He had the occasion yesterday to tour some of the areas devastated, I believe, in Highland Park, and the outcry from the families of, can the city do something to help, really precipitated the conversations and the motion that's before you today. This is the right thing to do, and we encourage the council to adopt the motion as is presented today.
Thank you for that information. I just ask that the city attorney's office be extremely cooperative because these people are under great stress, and the city controller.
Right.
And the city controller, because they're under great stress to make sure that there's a one-stop. And as Mercedes mentioned, she's going to have a kind of guideline what we could do, because when we offer something, we want to deliver it. And if we can't deliver it within a reasonable time, their frustration goes on even greater.
Councilman, we've been in communications with the city attorney's office, and they're preparing in anticipation some boilerplate languages for loan agreements, affidavits, and the other documentation would be necessary. The expectation is when the council moves today that we're prepared to get this dollars out to the families who need it as soon as possible, because it is really a life and safety, a public safety issue. I think there's one woman that was speaking to the mayor yesterday that said, you know, I have the choice of sleeping in the streets or in my car. So this is really an emergency situation, and our expectation is to work collectively to get these dollars out to these families who need it as soon as possible.
And could you make sure you work with the city controller's office, because they're the ones who ultimately cut the check.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ms. Misikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we're still talking about this. Obviously, I think from the city attorney and the housing department who are going to bring back the parameters, that is critical. Members, we have been through disasters before, and we've been through disasters that have had a much more significant magnitude. I don't recall that we've ever put city money out there unsecured in this kind of situation. Essentially, that is what FEMA is for. Every other disaster, whether it was the earthquake, both 72, I don't know if the FEMA even existed then, but clearly the 94 earthquake, FEMA existed. And the first thing they do is write the check for housing relocation. And I thought it was not necessarily even a loan. I think that relocation that FEMA gives may not be a loan. It may just be something that families are given. And I'm sure they've done it for the tornado disasters in Florida. This is the first time we're ever doing it on a scale at the city in this kind of instance. And I'm only concerned about it because there may be a much, much, much bigger disaster someday, and we may not be able to do it. The other thing is we are adding an extra layer of turnaround, because these people who would be entitled, let's assume FEMA, the disaster is declared here in the next 24 hours, those people, FEMA already has offices set up because of the last area, they could walk into the office literally in 24 hours and get those checks from FEMA. Instead, we're going to set something up maybe in a week from now, and in fact, by the time a week from now is up, then we've come back with parameters, FEMA may be there and giving these checks directly. So I just want to have us be aware of that. We would then be, as you say, you're taking it as a promissory note and expecting the people who are then going to go to FEMA, where FEMA might give it, to get it from FEMA to get back to us. So we're adding another layer of bureaucracy and paperwork in all of this, or potentially some other kind of problem. The other thing that's really important to me here is a means testing, because a number of people who own homes have in their homeowner insurance policy exactly that, a disaster insurance not only for rebuilding but for relocation. So just as easy as they may come to the city of LA and get a check cut that's a loan to then get a lot more paperwork, they could call their insurance agency and perhaps get relocated. I mean, most other times there have been disasters, that call to the insurance agency says, get to the hotel, we'll cover the bill. Get to wherever, we'll cover it. If it's going to be longer term than just a week or two in a hotel and you need maybe a couple of months while your house has really fallen down, all of that gets worked through. So we're adding another opportunity. I just want to be very, very, very cautious that is means tested, absolute, and that we have some knowledge of the repayment and just the opportunity. I mean, we're going to set ourselves up as a little bit of a mini FEMA. And a lot of times we've done that in the past. Mostly we've done it post-relocation and in terms of processing for homes. And we're going to go through the process for some of the homes that may want to be rebuilt, can't be rebuilt because we've changed the standards on them. Or there's new restrictions that, and the question is, do those new restrictions apply or not? So we're going to have to go through lifting our restrictions. So there's a lot that we will do to help in the rebuilding. But this is the first time we've gotten into putting city money out there for relocation in this kind of instance, and I just want to be very, very cautious and really look at that. And I guess the question is, if we come back a week from now, when you've got the means testing and all the other parameters and the promissory notes and everything set up, and FEMA is existing, and we know from FEMA that those monies are being given, will we need this?
We're going to make a call today to FEMA and start speaking with them about what the process is, and get some sense of their parameters. So I'll start reporting to the mayor's office today everything I learn about that. At this point, I couldn't tell you, but it may very well be that if FEMA actually does move in, that we may not.
Right, okay, so that you will check that. That will be an option.
Absolutely.
If FEMA offices are up and open a week from now, by the time we would have our parameters set in place and our money's able to flow, those people may have already been able to go to a FEMA office and get the check and be relocated.
Right.
Okay, I don't
absolutely-
know that.
But as at a base level, I'm already thinking about it, and I know that I'm going to require an affidavit on means testing. So in a short turnaround, it's very difficult.
And what kind of means level are you considering?
I'm going to have to take a look at the different levels and see what people feel comfortable with. Certainly, given our area median, we could go to 150% of median, and it wouldn't be a big thing, because in our city, that's not that much. So you want to make sure that you get to those people that are the working class, that are the
I
most
agree.
likely not to have those types of reserves.
I could see families who had long-term investment in their home, retired, fixed income,
Right.
or minimal level income in a home. That would be an appropriate means test.
And they would be, that kind of folk would be probably at around 100% of AMI if they're retired already.
Okay, well, again, let's just look at all those other parameters so that we have the guarantee and the understanding of what we're adding to another layer of stuff, which they're going to have a lot of layers of when FEMA does open and they get all this other stuff, where we will be then looking to waive fees and other kind of restrictions to help them rebuild in a manner that should be and can be safe, and get them back into housing that is capable of living in.
We'll come back with great detail, and I imagine I'm going to learn a lot this week.
Thank you very much. Other members wishing to be heard on Special 1? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 eyes.
That is approved. Let's send the item forthwith, please, and we'll hear back from you in a week. Let me recognize Mr. Reyes at this time.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to reconsider, I believe it was items 18. We do have folks here that came from the community in regards to that issue. If we just open that up, give them 2 or 3 minutes for the public speaking.
Okay, let's open the roll on item 18, or reconsideration of item 18. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 eyes.
Okay, if we can put up a 5-minute clock and hear from Amy McKenzie, Stash Molesky, and Robin Nelson.
Can I go first? I'm Stash Molesky.
That's
Okay.
your prerogative. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Stash Molesky of 2554 Lincoln Boulevard, number 162, Venice, California, 90291. Thank you for this opportunity to address you today. I'm representing Belmont Art Park United. The entire Toluca train yard, including the Belmont Tunnel Portal and Power Substation, is an important historic and cultural landmark that represents a keystone in the development of the transportation history and urban development of the historic core of downtown Los Angeles and its original outlying suburbs. Built in 1925 by Henry Huntington, this is the site of Los Angeles' first subway line as part of the Pacific Electric Red Car line. I maintain that the entire site should be preserved, including the perimeter walls of this train yard, the historic train ramp, as well as the tunnel portal and substation building. This has been considered one site since its construction in 1925 and remains as one continuous site today. This site is most importantly a symbol of the vision of those Los Angelinos who understood the true meaning of progress and the greater good of the community. If the site is to be divided and only the tunnel portal and substation are to be preserved, I implore you to maintain limited public access to this site. Please insist that this site be given regular posted hours when the public can access this site for viewing, contemplation, and study. Secondly, I ask that a neutral third-party nonprofit organization be empowered to oversee the proper restoration and management of this site. The Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust, which has been recommended by the actual developer, clearly has a conflict of interest and cannot be considered a neutral party, as Mi Lee, the Meta Housing representative, serves on the board of directors of this organization. This particular developer has already been served with 3 stop work orders by the Department of Building and Safety and clearly deserves to be closely monitored as the owners of this irreplaceable historic monument. I have submitted into the record a list of organizations that would be better suited to manage the historic cultural aspects of this site. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple more speakers.
Hi, my name is Amy McKenzie, and I'd like to donate my minutes to Robin Nelson.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Robin Nelson. I'm here to speak on behalf of Belmont Art Park United about the Toluca Subway Yard on Glendale and 2nd Street. The Toluca Subway Yard has a measurable historic and cultural value. Although certain people have characterized the yard as vacant and derelict piece of land, statements like this overlook the immense value that the site has to the community, to the city of Los Angeles, and to the world at large. Over the years, many people have recommended that the Toluca Subway Yard, also known as Belmont Art Park, be made into a historic landmark and legitimate public park. Proposals were made by the Trust for Public Land, by George Esslinger and the Red Car Concept, by Gloria Molina, Mike Hernandez, and many others. Evidence of the unique character of this site is documented in over 100 films and television shows. Financial documents from 1999 show that this derelict yard was making an average income of $6,000 a month in unsolicited filming location fees. Imagine what we could do if the city legitimized it as a park and helped with the cleanup efforts. In 1999, the Toluca Subway Yard was privately listed for sale. Over the next 4 years, the land was privately offered to select buyers. However, it was not easy to sell because the site has several hindrances to development. One of the problems with the land is that the Pacific Electric train easement prevents developers from building directly in front of the tunnel portal. There's a Superior Court case titled Toluca Station Associates versus Ty Rubens, which chronicles the efforts to sell this property. In the court documents, there's a letter from a potential buyer stating that they had contacted Councilmember Reyes' office to help them figure out a way to develop the land and get around the building difficulties. The letter states that Mr. Reyes offered to help the developers find a way around the tunnel easement so they could build on the subway yard. The community in which the Toluca Yard resides has the densest population in the city. However, they do not have a neighborhood council, and most of the residents are renters who are disenfranchised from the political system. In situations like this, it is important that the city officials step in to steward the land. This did not happen. Although the site has been the cornerstone of our neighborhood since 1925, Mr. Reyes made no efforts to notify the community of the pending development, nor did he suggest that due to the building difficulties, the site be turned into a legitimate park. Instead, he began working with the developers who tried to demolish the site 3 times without permits and also removed leaking underground gas tanks without permits. Despite all this, the building variances for the apartment project were approved by City Council on December 15th. On December 27th, the still pending historic designation was cleared from the city's database by the Planning Department. Building permits were issued while this historic designation was pending finalization. Although the original recommendation from the Cultural Heritage Commission was to designate the entire yard as historic, you're not being given the opportunity to vote on that today. What you are allowed to vote on today is the historic designation of the tunnel and substation only. The developers are planning to keep these structures on private property in a courtyard without any public access. The community and the city will not benefit from this designation, and I believe it is a misuse of the cultural designation process. It has been stated that we should not lament the loss of our park because Vista Hermosa is planned across the street. This is deeply ironic because houses were torn down and a school was promised on the Vista Hermosa site. Now our park is being destroyed, and we are told that it will be replaced by Vista Hermosa. What is happening here needs to be examined. It is either negligent planning or the strategic dislocation of my community. The city had an opportunity to work with the community to help preserve a very important piece of Los Angeles history. Instead, what happened was that the needs of the neighborhood were overlooked and the desires of a developer were facilitated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes public comment for item 18. Mr. Reyes?
Thank you, Council President. Just for the record, the facility, both the tunnel and the area that is historic, will be made public. Despite the assertions made by the last speaker, we did engage the community. We did have to deal with some very hard choices, housing and open space. We provide the open space across the street, as has been stated. The development has been curtailed significantly, mitigated with the community's participation, with the community's involvement. And again, these are hard choices. Not everyone will be happy. But the fact is, these are tough decisions, and I strongly believe my office, this city, is doing the right thing in providing affordable housing. We're preserving historic facilities. They will be accessible, and we will continue working with our youth and our communities in this area, as we always have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. If there's nothing further on this item, let's once again open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. And colleagues, before we go into closed session, hold on, Mr. Parks is recused on a couple closed session items, so that'll drop us from 11 members to 10 members and a bare quorum. So I'm going to ask you all to be patient as you go into closed session. We'll move as expeditiously as possible. Madam Clerk, next item.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There's an excuse on the desk. Councilmember Reyes requested excuse March 18th, 22nd, and 23rd for personal business. Those all meet council policy.
Mr. Reyes is excused.
And that clears the desk for closed session.
Okay, unless there's anything further, Mr. Parks is recused on item 62 and 67. He clearly won't be part of closed session deliberation on these items. I'm sorry, 64 and 66. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, he's recused on 64 and 66.
Okay. Mr. Garcetti?
If Mr. Parks is coming back, can we please take that first, as I have a excuse and a speech I'm supposed to give?
Okay.
He's not
Ms.
coming.
Gruhl?
And I just wanted to ask item 15 to go forthwith.
Forthwith on 15. Unless there's any other announcements, then in conformance with California law, the council will now adjourn into closed session. Sergeants, please clear the chambers. Welcome back into open session. Madam Clerk, next item before us, please.
Next items before council are settlements. The first item is item number 62, and that's settlement in the case of Guevara versus City of Los Angeles, and that's in the amount of $590,000.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. Next item.
Next item is item number 63, and that's in the case of Duncan versus City of Los Angeles in the amount of $200,000.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith. Next item.
Item 64, in the case of Arredondo versus City of Los Angeles in the amount of $200,000.
Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please.
Item number 66, in the case of De Leon versus City of Los Angeles in the amount of $350,000.
Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Forthwith, please. Next item.
And the last item is item number 67, in the case of Navidad versus City of Los Angeles, and that's $800,000 settlement.
Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved as well. Forthwith, please.
And that clears the desk.
Colleagues, it's the end of our agenda today. Do we have any announcements? Any announcements? If there's no announcements, do we have adjourning motions today? If we don't have any adjourning tributes, then thank you all. Oh, we do. Would everybody please rise for adjourning motions? Ms. Misikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, over the weekend, we lost a great light in the world of entertainment in this country. He happened to have been a Pacific Palisades resident, but I'd like to have the council adjourn in his memory, John Raitt. And John Raitt is Bonnie Raitt's father, and many of the younger generation will know Bonnie Raitt, and that will resonate with them. But John was also an amazing performer, entertainer. He died at the age of 88 at his home in Pacific Palisades. But he had been a leading man on Broadway in the 1940s, 1950s, had a great voice, a great stature about him. And I got to know him in the Palisades because he participated in a lot of community events, never lost his love of entertaining and singing, and he was both the judge for local talent contests, but if there was ever, whether a chamber event, a seniors event, he was there, and it didn't take anything to have him break out into song. It was amazing. In the New York Times obituary, it talked about how he had won the role of Curly in Oklahoma, and which really sent his career soaring. But a few years ago, which was the 50th anniversary of the production of Oklahoma, he actually went to the stage in Broadway where Oklahoma had first been presented, and whatever the show that was playing there that night, he came out before the show started and just did a rendition of Oklahoma for the audience. He literally performed all over the country and continuously up until very, very recently. And there was a story about him having gone one night to a performance in the East Coast, which had been snowed out, and some people had still gotten there were disappointed to hear that the show had been canceled, and he came out and sang for them anyway. That was his spirit. He was a delightful man. I was lucky enough at many of the events in the Palisades to sit next to him at these events, and he just regaled you with wonderful stories, wonderful character, wonderful life. And he will be much missed, particularly in that community, both the entertainment Broadway community and in the local community in the Palisades. In addition to his daughter, Bonnie, he is survived by 2 sons, Stephen and David, and he is also survived by his wife, Rosemary Kramer. So he will be much missed in the Palisades.
All members. Mr. Villaraigosa.
Yes. Members, I'd like to adjourn in memory of a great friend of mine, Dr. Gene Scott, a well-known pastor and teacher and resident of the 14th Councilmanic District. Dr. Scott was well known for his religious TV and radio broadcasts, which were carried around the world. He was also known for his varied and wide-ranging charitable and philanthropic work, including Save the Books, a telethon to benefit the Los Angeles City Library. He died Monday afternoon at the age of 75 after suffering a stroke. For 30 years, Dr. Scott led services every Sunday in Los Angeles, the last 16 of which he conducted at Los Angeles University Cathedral. The church is a downtown landmark. It's one of the largest in the Los Angeles area with more than 15,000 members. He began his evangelical career in 1975, hosting a nightly live television broadcast of Bible teaching and talk. He was involved with many institutions, including the Richard Pryor Byrne Foundation, the Southwest Museum, the Museum in Black, the Adventist Medical Foundation, Rebuild, and the Rose Bowl Aquatic Center. Dr. Scott helped to put together one of the most complete collections of Bibles and manuscripts anywhere in the world, and that collection includes many milestone editions of the Bible and is on display at the Los Angeles University Cathedral. He was born in Buell, Idaho in 1929. He later moved to Northern California in 1957, earned his PhD from Stanford University. He's written more than 20 books and was an accomplished painter. He spoke many languages, including the ancient language of Aramaic. Dr. Scott's program was most recently called the Festival of Faith, and his lively, humorous, and self-effacing approach to TV evangelism made him one of the most entertaining and enjoyable practitioners of the trade worldwide. He's survived by his wife, Melissa, and private services are being arranged. And I was saying to a few people that you get to know Dr. Scott and have dinner with him, and you get an incredible conversation, a Renaissance man, brilliant, had an encyclopedic mind, and we're going to sorely miss him.
Other final tributes? Mr. Cardenas.
Yesterday, we adjourned in the memory of an incredible human being, Rory Shaw, who passed away on Sunday night. His final resting place will be in Michigan. His mother will be taking his body back to Michigan with her, but tomorrow here in our chambers at noon, Thursday, the 24th of February, there'll be an opportunity for people to participate in paying their respects. Again, services for Rory Shaw tomorrow noon here in our chambers, and his final resting place will be in Michigan.
Mr. Ludlow.
Just wanted to add to that. I wasn't here on the day that Mr. Cardenas had brought it in. I wanted to just also extend my own personal thoughts. Many of you may remember when we brought the Cloverdale Avenue flood into this council chambers. It was Mr. Shaw that literally was out there with the residents fixing it. And my staff reminded me of that just the other day, and what a great loss to the whole city. And again, wasn't here when Mr. Cardenas brought it up, but had an opportunity to see you out there at the scene providing leadership on behalf of the city. And I know it was a tough moment for you, but just want to say thank you again for your leadership and a real loss to the whole city.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.